This is PerformLaw's marketing planning process presentation tailored to individual attorneys. We have a slightly separate process for law firms for which we consider a marketing system development for the entire firm. However, this presentation covers all the essential tasks and steps in developing a successful marketing plan for attorneys. PerformLaw's process is split into three major phases. The first phase is the strategic planning part, followed by the tactical level planning, and ultimately concluded by the implementation. Now, in the first part, our strategic assessment, we start with a planning process that typically includes the presentation I am delivering right now and certain other considerations. This is followed by a research questionnaire that we provide attorneys with. Ultimately, we get to a strategic meeting in which we discuss some of the findings of the previous steps, and that is concluded with a presentation of the strategic marketing plan that we developed for the attorneys. Then we move on to the tactical stage. At this point, we talk about activities. We help attorneys develop certain activity budgets, and ultimately, we get to a marketing system plan at which we have put together a management plan for that attorney to ultimately implement that and successfully engage in marketing activities. As we get into the details of our planning process, I'd like to start off with briefly mentioning a summarized version of what attorneys and law firms can get out of their engagements with us with respect to marketing planning. So there's a few key points and key moments here and key deliverables that we focus on. Those are the goals and the expectations for a marketing plan. So a high-level strategic view. We do consult on the best tactics to achieve these goals. So essentially, we identify specific marketing activities and tasks and associate these with the aforementioned goals. We help attorneys with a review of their activities and tasks and the development of a budget and activity approval system, not only for the individual attorney, but also for others and the entire firm. And last but not least, we evaluate the effectiveness of previous and current strategies and tactics with the help of specific marketing key performance indicators, and then help firms and attorneys to recalibrate their efforts. As we start our engagements, we initially use the planning phase to get a better understanding of the attorney's strengths, weaknesses, their goals, certain challenges, and activities. So what that entails, for example, regarding goals and objectives, we, at that point in our first discussion, like to find out if that person, the attorney or the firm, have specific personal or firm goals, where an attorney might see a gap between where they are right now with their business development performance and where they need to be or where they want to be, and also whether they know whether meeting these goals will be easy or a hard task. Now, regarding challenges, one thing we'd like to find out at this point, whether the attorney knows of any obstacles that are preventing them from reaching their goals, what they think their biggest sales or marketing challenge is at the moment, and certainly whether the attorney or the firm have the internal expertise necessary to deal with such challenges. Now, with regards to activities, at this point, we would just like to get a feel for what attorneys have done in the past and what type of activities they might be most comfortable with, and certainly which type of activities they could definitely benefit from a certain learning and training initiative. Another important point here would be for us to find out where most of their leads come from, um, where they have their referral sources, and certainly what type of activities um, they preferred mostly throughout their career. And last but not least, we'd like to find out how attorneys potentially measure their performance, how they have done that so far. In most cases, there hasn't been done any specific measure, so that's certainly something we then take into consideration as we plan the rest of the marketing system and the marketing management plan for that attorney. As we conclude the planning phase, we distribute a questionnaire to attorneys that we use for marketing research purposes to get as much information and as much data on that attorney as we can that will help us with the development of the strategic marketing plan. This questionnaire is divided into multiple sections. We start off with the industry. At this point, we review the attorney's competition and the driving forces in a specific practice area. The second part is an analysis or a review of the market. We, at this point, would like to get information on the targeted client segment. This is followed by a brand and vision assessment that focuses on discussing specific branding objectives and image objectives of that attorney. The marketing goals is another important point as part of this questionnaire. We certainly want to find out here whether or not that attorney has so far thought about specific strategic and financial goals. We then move on to the marketing activities. At this point, we look at the specific activities attorneys might have engaged in before, activities that are interested in, activities that are typically used either by their competitors or their industry in general. This is followed by a skills assessment. This is a self-assessment. We at this point would like attorneys to think about what they're good at when it comes to marketing and where they can use some improvement. And ultimately, we look at the marketing system. And what this means is we would like the attorney to assess the firm's marketing support system and based on that, get a better idea as to what support tools and what support is available to that attorney and what potential additional policies and support measures could benefit the attorney and the firm in general. Once we receive the survey response from the attorney, we review the answers and put together a document that includes any information that we have gathered from the initial planning phase as well as the survey response. And then we move on to a strategic meeting in which we gather any additional information that we're still looking for from the attorney. We work with the attorney on discussing and revising goals, strategic and financial ones. We also discuss their specific marketing interests. So these 3 points are specifically aimed at helping the attorney shape their goals, their expectations, and ultimately already the tactics that they want to engage in. So all the information from the survey response that they might have had trouble with gathering just because either they didn't really know about certain considerations that come into play when planning their marketing strategy, or if they're inexperienced or they just need additional help. At this point, we help them really focus their efforts and get their focus on the specific goals and expectations that ultimately are supposed to guide their marketing plan. Another thing we bring up at this point are buyer journeys and buyer personas, which are specific marketing terms that are used to describe the decision-making process of potential clients, and then also the persona and the personality of those potential clients. And ultimately, both of these tools are used to focus and allocate marketing efforts and activities to most effectively and also most efficiently communicate with prospects, with referral sources, with current and former clients for the purpose of client acquisition and retention. Once we conclude the strategic meeting, PerformLaw then moves on to put together the strategic marketing plan. And this plan is sectioned into the areas that you see here on the right. First and foremost, we will at this point have clearly formulated strategic and financial goals. The plan also features a section on the industry review, one on the market analysis, including the segmentation, as well as the buyer personas and the buyer journey, another section on the branding, including the brand vision and the desired image that the attorney ultimately wants to portray. Then we get into the next section here, the marketing SWOT analysis. So essentially it is a strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats analysis focused on marketing for that attorney. So we will look at things that the attorney is already doing well, things that an attorney needs to improve on, things where the attorney will have some opportunities that they can seize to increase their marketing performance, and then also some external threats that the attorney should be aware of. Then we formulate tactical marketing goals, and ultimately these tactical marketing goals are supposed to reflect the strategic goals we initially formulated. And these tactical goals are much more relatable when it comes to specific marketing activities such as blogging or organizational memberships or potential client entertainment. So we at this point will formulate specific goals for these activities. And based on these goals, we then make marketing mix recommendations. These recommendations are essentially a list of specific activities that we suggest the attorney to engage in. So those could be activities that are content development related. Those could be activities that are relationship building focused or contact management focused. So we have 3 different categories here. And besides the marketing mix, we also recommend a mix of support tools that the firm should offer to that specific attorney, but also others. Those could be internal support, such as a marketing specialist, a marketing budget, website and blog hosting, and others. It could be external support, such as marketing consultants, marketing or event planners, specific marketing agencies. And then last but not least, software support, which includes systems for contact management, client relationship management, and also marketing automation. After the presentation of the strategic marketing plan, we have at that point included the strategic phase, and at this point move into the tactical phase. So at this point, the suggested relationship building, content development, and contact management activities need to be put into an action plan. So, for example, that includes considerations like if an attorney will engage in an organizational membership activity, then at this point the attorney would have to develop the specific organizations that they should be joining. Or if they want to engage in content marketing, then at this point it would be important to figure out, is the attorney going to write a blog? Are they going to publish articles? And if so, where and how often and how frequent? So this is where we really talk about the details for each activity. And each of these activities will be associated with a tactical goal so that the attorney with their activities and tasks can work towards these goals to ultimately enhance their marketing performance. In addition to planning the specific activities out, at this point we allocate time requirements and also costs to each activity so that ultimately the attorney can create an activity budget report that the firm's management can approve. And by developing this type of approval system, will make it much easier for the attorney as well as attorney's colleagues to get their marketing systems and their marketing plans approved as soon as the management team can see that there's a clear plan behind their activities and their marketing efforts. Now, the other thing we have at this point and at this level of the marketing planning system is the contact management system. The contact management system essentially is a way to keep track of contacts. And throughout our engagement, we have noticed that this is one of the key areas that attorneys need improvement. And this is also one of the key areas where attorneys need a lot of help, just because typically they haven't really engaged in any sort of structured contact management activity. Typically, contacts are stored potentially as LinkedIn contacts or connections in an Excel spreadsheet, in an Outlook contact database, but there's typically not a system used that is centralized and that allows an attorney to easily keep track of their conversations, their engagements, and their points of contact with potential referral sources, with prospects, with current and former clients. So typically at this point, we recommend the use of a software system, and it's a relatively easy implementation because the functions of a contact management system are relatively focused simply on tracking and maintaining contacts. Once an activity budget report was created and an activity approval system has been established, we can then move on to the management plan, which essentially combines all the previously planned structures. So that includes the strategic marketing plan, the budget and activity plan, the support system plan for specific activities and efforts that we suggest the firm to offer the attorneys, including the specific attorney we're planning the marketing for. And once we provide these documents, we then move on to discuss the implementation of the plan. As we move into the implementation phase, it is very important for us to make sure that the attorney has a detailed and structured yet simple way to actually realize the goals that they set for themselves and also actively engage in all of the activities that we planned on a strategic and tactical level. So at this point, we focus on the implementation of an activity and budget management system, which allows an attorney to efficiently and also effectively allocate their time to specific activities that will help them with client acquisition and also retention, and also allow them to more quickly get specific budgets and specific time approved to engage in their marketing activities. Because at this point, management can see a very clear path as to how that attorney wants to achieve their goals. On the other hand, we certainly focus on the support system implementation. Typically, an attorney will need some form of support from the firm, and whether that is an internal support or an external support or support in the form of a software, at this point we are focused on making sure that these systems get implemented properly so that the attorney can actively engage in all of the activities that were planned. And the other thing that we provide is a range of best practice documents that an attorney can use early on and then also later in the later stages of the implementation of the plan when it's time to revise it or to add to it. This concludes the presentation. Thank you for taking the time to let me explain our individual marketing planning process to you. As I mentioned in the beginning of the presentation, our planning process for law firms as a whole is slightly different. There are a few different and a few additional steps. Um, we will link the video for that in the description below, as well as a link to our knowledge base, which is a library of different articles, including marketing and business development topics that will provide you with further information on marketing and other areas.